you put a limit on yourself, and it sucks. And that's how it really sets you back in skateboarding. If I had to leave you guys with one thing, that's what up, Hendo homies? Welcome to an episode of Hendo Grows, where we go learn something new. Today, what I want to talk about is how growing up Asian affected my skateboarding. But before we get into that, let me put a huge disclaimer out there. What I'm about to get into is coming from my own personal narrative growing up with Vietnamese immigrant parents. But the reason I decided to call it How Growing Up Asian Affects My Skateboarding is because I've noticed this is common among other Asians, but it's not just Asians, it's also can be, there's common themes among children who are raised by immigrant parents, who are raised by low income parents, who are raised by traumatized parents, who are raised by conservative parents. There's a lot of common themes, it's not just Asian, but you definitely see these common themes among other Asians. So that's why I'm gonna call it How Growing Up Asian Affected My Skateboarding. And so the first thing about having Asian parents is that they didn't really ever have the time or money to take me to things like skate parks, skate lessons, or put me in contests. That's one of the ways kids get better at skateboarding and just anything in general is by having their parents support them through things like that. I didn't have my parents for that. My mom raised 4 kids by herself and she was working all the way from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I would come home after school and she wasn't there till lunch later. I was raised partly by my siblings. Now this isn't strictly an Asian or Vietnamese thing. It's more about just like an immigrant, low income, coming from a poorer country type of thing. But it is pretty common among Vietnamese immigrants. But here's the thing, even if they did have the time and money to take me to those things, I don't think they would want to. Why? Well, we're gonna get to more Asian stuff now. So let's switch to a more Asian background, shall we? Skateboarding doesn't really fit into their Asian values. With Asian culture, they really value like security and peace. And so how did my parents get that? It was through education. That's how they view it. In general, it's Asian culture. It's about, you can attain peace and security, prosperity through education, book smart type of stuff. And they also care more about, classy type of things like piano, playing tennis. It's about being prim and proper and being able to showcase that to society. Skateboarding doesn't really fit into that at all. And this isn't just an Asian thing, really. It's more of just a conservative parent thing. Now on to the third way being Asian affected my skateboarding. So skateboarding is a painful activity. It involves, a lot of conflict as well. You're always, come to conflict with security guards, you're jumping fences, you just take a risk with your body and the concrete. And it really goes against that kind of Asian value of security. Now, aside from the whole Asian cultural aspect of that, it's also just my parents coming from a war-torn country. My parents, they grew up with people and their own families dying literally in front of their faces. And so it makes sense that they would want their own kids, their own family, to not have to go through that anymore. So they, they push them towards the more, stable kind of professions like, doctor, lawyer, all that kind of stuff. Now, the last way growing up Asian affected my skateboarding was that it really took away my confidence. And as you know, in skateboarding, you really need that confidence. You really have to believe in yourself to be able to land these like scary, gnarly ass shit sometimes, The thing with Asian culture is that it's not about sticking out. It's not about being extraordinary. It's not about being great. It's about fitting in. It's about being cohesive with society. You really start to believe that you aren't anything special. And for me, what it did was it took away my confidence. It took away my bravery, because I was always in this mindset. My mom and my dad were both taught it as well. It's just, you kind of belittle yourself and you just try to just do what you can. You're just kind of a normal person just looking to survive and be secure. That's it. You don't ever try to really take the risk and just be out there. That's not like the Asian way. I don't think this is necessarily a wrong thing, but the problem is that I was never also taught to be confident in myself and to because I think you could still, not desire to be extraordinary or anything, but you still need to be taught to be confident. You still gotta learn to care about getting better and growing and always being able to push yourself to the limit. Not because you're trying to be great or extraordinary, or trying to stick out, but just because you want to do better for yourself. And I wasn't stressed that, so all I really got was this kind of like talk of belittling myself, and that really took a toll on my confidence and what I believed I could do. Let me kind of exemplify this with a story. I remember when I was 14, I was driving in the car with my dad, and I've been skating for about a year at that time, and he told me straight up, like, you shouldn't ever consider making a career out of skateboarding. This is not stable, you know? That makes sense. But then, like, just having your dad tell you that, you really start to already doubt yourself. Like, it's such a negative, limiting belief to be told, and it sucks because then you start to really set your bar. That's where you set your bar. You set your bar low, and you don't ever really, I don't know, try to break out of that because you put a limit on yourself, and it sucks. And that's how it really sets you back in skateboarding. If I had to leave you guys with one thing, that's the thing, is to not let all this kind of limiting beliefs set you back and really be able to reach your full potential. Don't let these kind of talks set you back. You know, so since like Asian parents, they don't really try to gas you up or anything. It's more just about you just trying to out here to survive in an Asian parent's mindset. They're just trying to get you out here to prosper in the safest way possible. Alright guys, let's summarize all of this. So essentially, just growing up with low-income Vietnamese immigrant parents, it just left me with a lack of self-confidence and a lack of resources in order to really get better at skateboarding. But I say none of this as an excuse, because there are people just like this, and there are people who are worse off who still skate amazingly. So none of this is an excuse, but just kind of a way to just kind of, I don't know, just show the kind of hurdles that, you know, not just me, but a lot of other people have to go through in order to just continually skate awesomely. Everyone's got their hurdles, and this is true, again, like I said, whether, you know, your parents, it doesn't have to be your parents are Asian, you know, it doesn't have to be your parents are Vietnamese, but this just comes overall in general. You know, your parents are low income, if your parents are immigrants, if your parents freaking are conservative, your parents are traumatized, they come from a war-torn country. And normally, guys, I don't like to talk about this like identity politics stuff, because I just feel like it keeps like creating separation between us, which we do not need right now. I feel like we should more focus on what makes us similar. So that's why I bring all of this up, is for us to help really understand how we are similar as opposed to different. That's all for me today for Hendo Rose. I'm gonna see you guys Friday. Thank you for watching this. I'll see you all next time. Peace out.